Iran is threatening a significant attack against Israel. With all of the U.S. assets in the region, will the U.S. provide assistance in thwarting this attack? How is the U.S. preparing to respond?
So look, you heard from the president directly yesterday. He mentioned this at the top of his press conference and laid out our concerns, certainly, about these threats that are being made. And he made very clear as well that America's support for Israel's security is ironclad, especially against these threats that's coming from Iran and their proxies. And so the president made that clear as well when he spoke to President Netanyahu just last week, as I mentioned moments ago. I want to be really careful. I'm not going to get into operational procedures from here. Beyond that, we've made ourselves very, very clear. The president made himself very clear just yesterday, and so just don't have anything else to add beyond that.
But we certainly have done joint strikes against Iranian proxies in the recent weeks and months. Should we be braced for joint strikes against, in response to an Iranian strike against Israel?
I want to be super mindful. I don't want to get into hypotheticals here. What we have made very clear, obviously we've seen the threats coming from Iran, and so we have made ourselves very clear where we stand in supporting Israel's security. That is ironclad. That does not change. I'm just not going to get into details about our operational procedures from here.
Just one more on this. So General Killa is in the Middle East. He's making a stop in Israel. He's reportedly there to help, coordinate with Israel ahead of this expected attack. What does that coordination look like? What does that mean exactly?
I will refer you to SETCOM. Okay.
Karine, just to follow up on that topic, has Iran been in touch via intermediaries with Washington to indicate that when it responds to Israel's attack on its embassy, on its Syrian embassy, that it will not escalate?
So obviously we don't want this conflict to spread. We've been very clear about that. And we've been very clear that to Iran that we're not involved in the Damascus strike, right? We've been also very clear. I'm not going to get into public back and forth. We communicated to Iran that the U.S. had no involvement in the strike, as I just mentioned, that happened in Damascus, and we warned Iran not to use this attack as a pretext to escalate further in the region or attack U.S. facilities or personnel. I'm going to be super mindful not to speak beyond that from here or elaborate further, but we've been very clear.
Can you say whether Iran has responded to your or the U.S.'s
I'm just not going to get into public back and forth from here.
And following up on something that the president said yesterday with regard to Julian Assange, he indicated that the U.S. is considering a deal. To what extent does the White House and the president weigh in with DOJ on this, considering that it's a DOJ-led issue?
So from here, from the podium, I'm not going to go beyond what the president said. I'm going to refer you to the Department of Justice. I'm just going to be super mindful from the podium from here. I know. I'm going to be super mindful from the podium. I'm just not going to go beyond what the president shared yesterday. I'll refer you to the Department of Justice.